discovered a new geometric form with 7 equal faces, an unknown geometric form that had never appeared on Earth before. An objective process whose significance was also unknown. When putting this form through alchemical transformative process of earth, water, air, and fire, many previously unknown geometric structures emerged, especially a remarkable correlation to the formative forces forming and functioning of the human heart. Thus, the form is called a chestahedron in honor of its discoverer, Frank Chester. And because the form relates to the geometry of the heart residing in the human chest. He recently spoke at the Wegmann Clinic in Allersheim, Switzerland, the Goetheanum in Dornach, Switzerland, and the Rhode Island School of Design. And all recognized the significance of this form, and all as well as other, and he spoke to other institutions as well. And all these institutions have purchased his sculpture of the chestahedron because they recognize the significance of this form. He comes to us from Portland after speaking yesterday at the National College of Natural Medicine. So, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for coming. I should have mentioned there should have been reservations, but I see there's enough seats. Okay. It's named the chestahedron because it's a geometric form in the chest. Okay, so when I pass, nobody's gonna know there's an ER and N. Okay, but it is a form. Okay, that is found in the human body. It is an organ form. Okay, so what I thought I'd do is to show you about it, because everybody's interested, because they have one of these. Have the organization of an organ, okay? And I've called this new form technology because from this form I've discovered other forms that have never been seen before on top of this one. So first off, I want to tell you that this is about the research. Okay, about the research, and it talks about how it relates to the human heart. And the other thing that I have here for you to look at or to take is this catalog. This catalog was printed at Goetheanum and then at a special show on the Enderings called Endering 7. So inside here it shows all of the things that I sell that helps my work. And now it is, you can get a tax write-off if you buy a piece of art. And last week a book was written by Dr. Miller, all on my work. This is all his book, and in here I've given him all of the mathematics, all the drawings, all the processes, all the studies, where it comes from. It's everything that I discovered in 14 years in this book. And there's a little thing right here out there that says how you can get that book. And you have to go to this website, his website. Okay, enough of that. Okay, I started this 14 years ago with the idea that I wanted to find a 7-sided form. I had no idea that it was a heart, a bell, a vortex organizer, had anything to do with any of that. I started out with the intention of finding a 7-sided form, and that's it. I didn't even look to find out if there was a 7-sided form. Didn't even look. So I'm glad I didn't, because I don't think I'd have started this project. And not only that, but I wouldn't have come up with this one, because no one else has. So, I can start out with this by showing you a tetrahedron. This is a tetrahedron. A lot of you are familiar with it. That's a tetrahedron. This is known as fire. And of course there are other platonic forms that relate to water, and relate to earth, and to air. And that's the way it works, is you have fire, it melts a block of ice, which is a solid, into a liquid, and if you keep heating it up with fire, it turns into a gas. That's earth, water, air, and fire. Very simple, 4 elements. Okay, this is the first one that comes in because it has the least amount of surface areas, 4, and the least amount of volume. So this is known as fire. But this is also known on the other side of the threshold as warmth. The second one that comes is an octahedron, and it's associated with air. And on the other side, air is light. Okay, and then the other 2 platonic forms also have the polarity opposites between the physical and the spiritual. Okay, so what I found out was that no one in the history of studying geometry ever took one of these forms and opened it up. You think, well, why not? You know, but no one's done it. And this is how I found the form. By opening this up to a certain point where these surfaces here that you can't see, they're there, become equal with the red surfaces. So all you have to do is define those surfaces, is to lay it down on a table or a flat surface, and that makes the shape. So there's a certain point when I open this up that those spaces become equal. And the only way that I know how to do this is to open it up to a certain distance. So now I'm going to put stuff on the geometry here on the board that are very simple, but you'll see how simple this form is and why wasn't it discovered before, and how unbelievable this whole thing is. And all of the stuff that I'm going to draw is stuff that is taught in the Waldorf schools. Okay, so first I just take a circle. Doesn't matter what size. Doesn't matter what size circle. Oh, got too close. Starting out good, huh? You think this guy, oh boy. I can't even draw a circle without hitting the edge. So that's all right, I can eventually. All right, so here we go. I'll start on the edge. I'll draw one circle. Now, of course, everybody knows that all you have to do is start anywhere and go around with the same settings you made the circle. And you go around like this. And it divides that circle into a hexagram. Everybody knows that. I mean, it's just, the trouble is everybody does know it. And the thing is that the mystery of it is gone, but this is an unbelievable mystery that a hexagram can be constructed that way. So the compass has always been considered consciousness. All right. So if I draw another circle, I'll do it this time. Maybe I'll not make so many mistakes here, huh? I'll be able to stay away from the edge. I'll draw a circle here. I'll use this one. So I start with the center, just like I did with the compass. And then I draw a circle around here. And if you don't like math or geometry, this isn't going to strain you at all, because it's simple, you know. There's no measurements or formulas. I don't work with formulas. So if I take the center of this to the periphery, this looks like this. Well, you couldn't get any simpler than that. That's where the center is. So there is a distance from here to here, and you know how that went. It went from the periphery, okay, starting in the center, and going to the periphery, or periphery back to the center. So these two drawings, these two circles, are opposites. They're polarities. But the balance between these two is in here. This balance is this shape right here, known as the vesica, is a balance between polarities. That's why they always draw Mary here, they draw Buddha here, they draw Christ here, they draw all of these beings, okay, that are associated with development. And they always draw them in here. Now, one of the interesting things about this is that if this is 1, and so is this, and so is this. So it divides this space into 3. You know how hard it is to divide things 3, accurate? So if I connect the top where they come together to the bottom, that distance right there, which I didn't measure, is the square root of 3. And the square root of 3 is an esoteric number because it's 1.732, and this goes on, and you go to the computer and put in the math of root 3, and you'll find out that the computer stopped at 1 million numbers. Still hasn't reached the end. So it cannot be measured, okay, like 2 can or 4. This measurement cannot be measured by a ruler. And yet I just made it perfect, and you can too. Bill Steiner calls this distance formative forces. That's so interesting. Okay, so if I take, now that you know that, and you know that it makes a hexagram over here, using the compass just like before, also it can make 2 equilateral triangles. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. And of course that's been associated with geometry forever. It's basically called the Star of David. But that doesn't mean it's connected with a religion. It's just called that. Solomon's temple is based on this, on the hexagram. Okay, so now that you know a little bit about the geometry, there's one other thing I want to do. I want to draw a circle in the center of this. Because this is where all the forms come from, like the triangle and the square and so forth. So in this circle right here, what's chocolate coming out of here? What is so interesting about that circle? I get it there. There it is. What's interesting about this circle is there's also one here, one here. Now, if I draw another one here, I'm going to draw another one here, same size, to show you that that circle is also over here. So I can erase this one, and you will see that same size circle in the middle of this one. That's also the same size circle, because that's in here. You know, you can check me out by going home with a compass and see if this is right. But this size circle this is amazing. This size circle is exactly half the size of this circle. No measurements. The ratio is 1 to 2. Now I'm going to be done with this geometry real quick. So this distance from here to here is 1 inch. This is 2 inches. Amazing. Okay, so back to this. I decided to take this out until it made a hexagram in the middle. One of these. A hexagram in the middle. So that means that I can't go too much because the hexagram won't be equal inside, or if I span it out too big, it's too big, it won't make a hexagram either. So I had to do it perfect. And here it is. There's a hexagram, and this guy right here. So how I did that? Huh. That's simple? This is fun, you know. And there's a hexagram in there. That's really cool. If I go too big, you know, then it's not equal anymore. You know, when it's one size too long, it won't work. But it's got to be equal. All right, so what is the form? This is opening up. This is not fire anymore, it's warmth. So what does happen? What can incarnate from above to meet this in the middle, okay, to make the seven-sided form equal? Now what is it going to be? Well, what I found is that it is a pentagram. a 5-pointed star. This represents a human being. So what I did with the pentagram was I unfolded it. So it wasn't 5. It was only 4. That's simple, yeah? Anybody can do this. But what I was trying to do is I was trying to make a form that was going to work in here, and that doesn't work. So I did it one more time. And now, it goes in perfect. So all I have to do is put this back here and show you the 7-sided form. There it is. That equals, yes, that's just unbelievable, isn't it? It's just unbelievable. And so here, I made this one, huh? I made this guy right here. Yeah? I made it. And there's a hexagram. You can, I don't know if you can see that from where you are, but there is a perfect hexagram in there, right? Okay. So you know I'm not making this up. All right. So I'll put them together. And what happened was, if I get this right, is that the hexagram meet exactly in the middle of both forms. Right in the middle. I mean, give me a break. It's the same thing. Look. Yeah. So here we got a star that's come out of the sky or wherever it's coming from. And it folds in like this as it's coming down like this. And when it comes down and finally hits the earth and sits on the ground, it sits on those 3 points, and that just so happens to be where they sit is an opened up form of warmth. So, I decided that where this form hit, I made a hexagram. So I'm going to draw the hexagram here. Get rid of the circle. Show you the hexagram. So what I decided to do is, what really upset me about this whole thing, I was upset by one thing, and I have to show you what that is that this was not, when I brought these together, the distance between, I have to get this right, yeah, the distance, yeah, if I have my measuring tool here handy, if I do I can show you, if I don't need it. But the distance from here to here is different than from here to here. Isn't it? Yeah. I want this in the middle. You know what I mean? I want this thing so that it will sit exactly.
Is it area the same?
So it'll sit in the middle. This is too short. This is, too high.
Is the area the same though?
What's that?
Is the area the same or the volume the same?
Same. The area is absolutely the same between hexagrams. They're perfect. Matter of fact, you can't separate them. Okay, but if I push it down, I'll push it up. I won't push it up because this is too short. I want to push this up to get this right. But if I push it up, then the hexagram, this one gets too long, this one's too short. And if I try to push it down, the other opposite happens. This one gets too short, this one gets too long. So there's only one place that can be, and that's right there, and it's not in the middle. Upset me. So I was upset for a long time. How can you can't cheat. It won't work. It's geometry. What I'm presenting you is not through my eyes. I'm presenting you what's through the geometry of you and everyone in the room and everyone in the world, because geometry is universal. It's a language that doesn't cheat. It's a moral way of looking at things. That's why Rudolf Steiner said that when he saw the geometry book from his teacher, he said, I knew I could cheat. I could prove that there was a spiritual world through geometry. All right, back to my problem here. My problem was it's not in the middle. So one of the things that I did during this process is I decided, I wonder what would happen if I extend these out like this. Of course, I'm going to run out of this room again, but that's okay. But you can see that I'm going to get a bigger 6-pointed star. Do you see that? Mm-hmm. Bigger one, yeah? So there's a 6-pointed star here, like that, and then there's one here. So this one is like that one. Yeah? But this one is too, but it's at this angle here. Well, I did that. And I have it here. Here it is. So I extended out the hexagram. The hexagram is cut into the metal. I cut it into the metal. And then I extended it out to get the Star of David. It's real important that you see this because it's interesting what the geometry does. So I extended out the hexagram. And the hexagram is turned like this one, but it is the same distance from here to here as it is from here to here. So I extended it out and I made a circle around it. And if you know, a lot of these things you can come out here and see afterwards, but I just ask you not to handle them because they break easy. So when I saw that circle, yeah, that's in the not again in the middle. This is too high, this is too low. So then when I put a sphere around it, exactly the size, all 4 points touch perfectly. And now this form is absolutely centered in a sphere at the equator. Perfect. So now you can see why I was very happy this happened, because all that frustration of not having it in the middle was solved. It is now in the middle. The bottom touch, these 4 points touch this one. That's why this isn't as tall. This one's taller, okay, to fit. Isn't that wonderful?
And 1 point touches in that. And the top half, 1 point touches.
What's that, what?
1 point touches. in
Only
the top
1
half.
point. Only 1 point and 3 here. There are 3 internal ones that don't touch. So you know it's not a platonic form because all points are supposed to touch the sphere. This isn't a platonic form. Okay. Now this means something to you, but it'll take a little while to get there. Okay. The human heart doesn't look like this, does it? I mean, that's not how my heart looks. Okay. But you have to remember that when you build a building, this building, you have an idea of what you want to make. The next thing that happens after you have an idea is you have to draw it. This table right here was an idea at one time. Okay? And someone had to draw this before somebody could make it. So what's going on here is that, you know, after the architecture is done, all the scaffolding is taken away, right? All the structure that held it up. Like here I have pictures of what I mean. See, here's the arches, right, that were made. Okay, and of course, you know, there are scaffoldings that hold up all arches. Now, when the building is done, the scaffolding's gone. And, you know, here's the scaffolding. And, of course, on a larger building, I mean, there's a lot of scaffolding. You never see anymore. It's gone. What you're seeing is scaffolding. This is what you don't see that was there to construct what you do see. So this is the unseen. That's why it doesn't look like a human heart until you put it into minimum surfaces. And minimum surfaces are I can show you how to do it. You take this form and you dip it in soap and you blow a bubble. And when you blow that bubble in there and you make it, this is how it looks. This is a 7-sided bubble. And how do I know it's accurate? I take photographs. I take photographs of the bubble. And of course I also make sure they can spin so I can see the shape. This is exactly the shape of the left ventricle of the human heart. The left ventricle. And it is a vortex. So your heart is a vortex form. But it is slowing down. And the reason I know it's slowing down is because a vortex, when it's speeding up, is shaped like this. But when it slows down, it's like this. The human heart, at the apex, the base, and the mid-level, this part is slowing down twice as fast as the outside. So the heart form itself is deaccelerating.
From what?
What's that?
Decelerating from when?
Well, okay, the question is when. I have to find these things out. I constructed a vortex generator. About that high, and I have it on my deck. It runs off a bunch of old plumbing parts and a spa pump. And what I do is I have control of the vortex, not only the speed, the size, height, so forth. I can control it all. And when I have it at a certain speed, okay, this form comes in. Okay? And what happens is the vortex is really a big vortex with this. Of course, when you spin this, you'll see the vortex. And one of the things about when you spin this is that it creates a bell. And this bell shape here on the outside is the vortex. That's the shape of the vortex. Now, the bottom part of it here is a vortex that is between acceleration and deacceleration. It's right in between. But when you put it into minimum surfaces, this curves up and this curves out like that. So that vortex machine, when I turn it off, it's going like this, and then finally it gets like this, and then it reverses and becomes organic. That's why you have organic forms throughout nature, is because behind the structure there's a vortex. And if you think about it, all the things that come into Earth, especially the plants, are vortexes. Yes?
So what about the heart is spinning?
What about what?
What about the heart is spinning?
The heart
Is spinning.
is
What
spinning.
about the heart is
Okay. Once a thing is manifested in the world that comes from a vortex, it becomes fixed. It doesn't spin anymore. It's not spinning anymore. But it came from a vortex that was slowing down or speeding up. Yes?
So, would it be correct to think about it as the etheric forces that form the heart are spinning, and they form the heart out of this spinning motion?
Well, you have to remember that the physical side, okay, and the etheric side, okay, one is based on pressure and one's based on suction. The spinning vortex is suction. It sucks. The etheric force is the suctional force. Usually, I don't answer questions. And the reason I don't is because I have a flow that I have to go with, that a lot of these questions will be answered along the way. It's not that I don't like questions, I love them. Just hold them to the end and then ask me, write them down or something, you know what I mean? So because, you know, I hope that's okay.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have answers for everything, that's for sure. All right, so anyway, here we go. I found the form, okay, in January 2000, and this is it. And there's one right here. Can I borrow that one that you have, that you made? Sure. Yeah, this nice fella here made one. Okay, this was found in 2000, January, which is what I'm talking about. And so I've been working 14 years on it. And I didn't know it was the human heart for 6 years. But I studied everything, buds, plants, animals, crystal, all this, nothing. When I discovered the form, I tried to put it into a cube. And the reason I put it into a cube is because that's Earth. Earth is a cube, okay? Water is an icosahedron. Octahedron is air, and the tetrahedron is fire. So it was really important to try to find out if this form was in the Earth. That's what I was looking for. I want, where is this form? Where is this thing? It's not anywhere. Look on the internet, no one ever discovered it. I've never found the geometry of it anywhere, and where is it in the life So I thought, well, okay, I'll put it to the alchemical processes, and that's put it in the earth cube. So I found out that I could put 7 points and 7 surfaces in a cube that had 6 sides and 8 points. How do you get 7 points and 6? Well, I did it, and here it is. The 7-sided form fits into the cube perfectly, okay? But it's at an angle. And so what I did is I scratched in 4 lines in each direction, so it gave me 16 squares. So I knew exactly where this corner hit, and that corner hit on the top of the first square, right there. So I thought, I wonder what happened. I'm trying to find where this thing is, where it's coming from. I thought, I wonder if I ran it up here. If I ran it up here, this might tell me what this is coming from. And I did that. And I brought them with me, in case this thing doesn't work. Because you never know what's going to happen. Now I have to take my time in trying to put this back together right, because it's not always easy. I think I did it. I did, and now I'll put a rubber band around it so it doesn't come apart. And the rubber band I don't see, it's all over by hand. There they are. This is what I did. Now what I did here was, the chestahedron is right here. Okay, so what I did is I took this point up to the middle of this square, and that's this one. See it? I went from there to there. And up here, I did the opposite. I went this way, and I got to the middle of that square. And then when I got up to the very middle, or the very end, here's the very end. It's all the way down the end. The very end is a tetrahedron. This form I've found is coming from a tetrahedron in a cube. So we'll see if I put that back in there. You'll see that that's, whoops, the wrong way. Take a little while maybe to get it lined up. Usually it does, but it works eventually. It is like this. I think I got it. There it is. See at the very end? So it's gone from the middle, it's gone from here to there. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Now, what I've done is I not only went from the very half distance between these two, and then I went this way, and I got another form up here. And the form I got up there, well, I can take it out, I think, is this one. Now what this is of course, it's not a tetrahedron. What is this thing? And what it is, it's an octahedron, same size triangle. It's an octahedron. I don't know if I have the other one here. Oh, look. With a tetrahedron on top. Now, that's amazing. I've gone from an octahedron to a small tetrahedron, and that tetrahedron is exactly 1/2 size of this tetrahedron. So this is known as air, and this is known as fire. But this is something on the other side of the threshold. So the inside of the human heart is based on light and warmth. So that means that light, according to Rudolf Steiner, is the opposite is, or what light is wisdom. So what we have here in the middle of the human heart is warmth and wisdom. This is what we're trying to find out in heart thinking. This shows the form of heart thinking. So it is the correct process that's being described by Rudolf Steiner about what has to happen in the future. It's not to be all in the head. Okay. So I'm going to talk about Michaelmas. I made my decision about half an hour ago to do that, or an hour. I'm going to do this. How does this relate to Michaelmas? What are you doing here, right? Well, I'm minors in geometry. Okay, so this is, I had a straw here, and I don't know if it's here. It is. Now remember, I started with this hexagram stuff, remember? I've always got this hexagram thing, and you know, you can learn why. Now, the distance between here and here is root 3, isn't it? You know, if you make two equilateral triangles, the distance from the top to the bottom of equilateral triangles is this distance. Does that follow? That black straw is root 3, isn't it? This is 1, isn't it? You've got to understand this before I go on. Anybody quite like me to explain that a different way?
Yes.
You're like, okay. You have the hexagram here. I mean, the two triangles. I'll draw on here. I guess I could do it like this. I'm going to complete that hexagram like that. So here's root 3 between these two here. Here it is again. That's root 3 too. This is root 3. Yeah? This is root 3. And this is root 3. And this is root 3. And what do you get? Oops. What do you get? The Star of David. Right? So this is a root 3 here, according to my straw, my measurement. Really important that you see that I'm accurate. Okay, now I discovered this in a really weird way because I was studying snowflakes, and that's how I discovered this. If I take, this is really great. Remember, there's 6 points, right? In the middle is 7. That's what I'm after, 7 all the time. So if I put this distance, root 3, in the center, okay, and then I expand this out, like this. I put it right in the center and expand it out, turns into a perfect cube. That's amazing what you're seeing. That's just absolutely a magic. And what's so interesting about this magic is it's lawful. It's not black magic. This is real. This is made anywhere in the world by anybody. Root 3 is formative forces. It brings the second dimension into the third dimension. Root 3, we just saw it make a perfect cube. Now, so I said root 3 is very important, and now you know why it relates to the cube. Now, if you look at the human heart, okay, it sits in the body right at the front like this, on this side. And it sits exactly 45 degrees on the front. And if I turn to the side, the heart sits 45 degrees this way. So if I take this little guy here, this is the way the heart sits. It sits like this. And this is the 40. Do you see that's 45 degrees there? Yeah, see? Yeah. 45. From the top, it's 45. And from the side, it's 45. 45 where I turn, 45. But you all know sitting there that's not true. You know that it's root 3. Not across the diagonal. It's not across from here, which is known as root 2. It's not a root 2, it's root 3. That's why it looks 45 from the front, but it's not. And all the research I've done on the doctor stuff, and I've done on 50 research papers, which I'm not going to talk about, they say that it's 45 degrees in the human body. And the only reason they say that is because they look at the front and the top and the side, okay, but they don't know three-dimensional. But it's root 3. So the human heart sits in your body at root 3. And of course, that's exactly the seven-sided form sits in the human body at root 3. And there's the red line that runs through. That red line is root 3. This explains why it's 45 this way, 45 this way, 45 this way. But you know, we have the scientists have got to get into more education, into geometry. They ignore it. They try to work with it, but they've got other interests. Okay. So to tell you about this, you know that's root 3. I took it out of the cube. This is exactly the balance between forward and backwards, above and below, and right and left. Not this. We're human beings. This is not a scale here and a scale here and put weights on each side and go like this. We're human beings. This is the balancing of the human being. This is all about Michaelmas. Michaelmas is all about balancing polarities. We have all these dragons I looked up here. Not one of them have 2 heads. Okay, that's because there's only one dragon. But there are 2 dragons that have to be slain. 2, not 1. Now, why is that? Because what we're looking at are polarities. Now this 7th seal of Rudolf Steiner is really telling. Okay, thank you very much for getting it from the wonderful bookstore. And it draws a cube. And in the cube, okay, he has 2 dragons. One dragon is on this side of the cube, and one dragon is over here on this side of the cube. And one dragon, okay, is very interested in one polarity, and the other dragon is also interested in the opposite polarity. Just like the 2 circles I drew up there, and the Vesica is in the middle, is the balance, it's root 3. So what's happening in the human heart, okay, is that we're under attack. The dragons are not outside us. All the dragons you see that I've ever seen are not on Earth. I've never seen a dragon like this on Earth, everywhere. That's because those dragons are spiritual. They're in spiritual, not physical. But they represent the forces that are against the human development. So on one side, you have a dragon, okay, that you have to slay if that's your problem. Or on the other side, you have this other dragon, which is that sure one. You've got to slay one or the other, because you got one or the other that's out of balance. Okay, so one dragon, okay, is fascination. One is inflation. And the other one is, anything that is keeping you up in the air instead of allowing you to grow. You got to do something on Earth. We're here to do something. The other side, okay, is, okay, what you're trying to do is what Michaelmas wants. Okay, he wants us to bring things into the world. Okay, and so this side over here, this dragon over here doesn't want that. Neither does this one over here. This one's all about depression. This one's all about putting you down, put you in a cave, trying to belittle you, keep you from doing what you came here to do. Okay, keep you depressed. This one over here is trying to get you so inflated, yeah, so out of touch that you can't do your work here. You can't do your work on either one. And so, yes, you do have to slay the dragon. But the dragon isn't outside you, it's inside you. The dragon isn't outside anymore. With this George guy that comes up with the big sphere, now it's old. That was in the old time. That dragons are in us. And we have to work on those inwardly. And we have to try to find out what our problem is here, okay, so that we can do Michaelmas work. But what are the problems here? The problems here are based on the 4 organs. Okay, we have the heart, we have the liver, we have the kidney. What's the other one?
Lung?
Lungs. Okay, Each one of those organs has a problem. And everyone that incarnates into this world has one of those problems. So every one of you have a problem. We all have a problem. But the organs help you to understand what your problem is. So what I'm trying to do is, there's a really good book out called Four Ethers. Excellent book. I recommend it. There's also a book out called Human Organs. No, they're not very expensive books. And what it goes, I'll just give you one example. If you have a kidney problem, okay, Rudolf Steiner used to say, didn't used to say, I guess he did used to say, that one of the things that help a person who has a kidney problem to walk backwards before they go to bed. And you're going to think, well, that's so nutty. You know, that's insane. You know, but no, it's not, because this is, I got here, this is an octahedron, okay, and this is the kidney. Now, what happens is that this reverses. Reverse, reverse, reverse. This reverses. Always, everything that reverses is based on the kidney. So if you're a person who says, I never can make up my mind, I'm thinking, no, I'm going to reverse over here. No, I don't like that over here. Next day, I like this over here. No, next day, I don't like that. I'm over back and forth. Can't make up my mind. Well, I want to go to the show. No, I'd rather go out to eat. No, I don't want to go out to eat. I'd rather go to the show. I miss the show. If I eat, I don't have to eat. Okay. That's an indication of a kidney problem, which is your gift. That's your present. It's a package all wrapped up with a big red ribbon. And inside it is your problem. And why is that your gift? Because it tells you what you can do here on earth. It tells you what is preventing you, okay, from doing what you agreed to do when you came down here. So you work, that's an indication of working on, okay, the kidney. Now it doesn't mean you go to the kidney and have it operated on, or you go to the doctor. It just means that it's based on reversing back and forth and not being able to balance yourself, okay, at root 3. Because that's what we have to do, is to try to get the heart balanced between above and below, right and left, and forward and backwards. That's what we're trying to do. And that's the way that we can develop not only what we're trying to get rid of here, but becoming a more of a human being. Okay. So that was helpful to show that seventh seal. I recommend you look at it because it shows the two dragons and what part they're touching, which is the left, which is the right. See, the left side is you know, is it Ahriman, or is it, and the right side is Lucifer. And I'm not telling you which side there is, because I want you to look it up. But Lucifer is on one side, okay, and Ahriman's on the other side. Okay. So, I gave a lecture yesterday in Portland to students and doctors, student doctors, becoming doctors. So I have all these research papers that I'm not going to bother you with. It's too detailed, okay? It's too, you know, it's too abstract. So what I want to do is to take and eliminate the abstract and show you the basis of what the heart is all about. You know, what root 3 is all about, what this form is all about. Okay, first off, the heart is a vortex. But there are two vortexes. And one is really a strong muscle. This baby is strong. But the right ventricle isn't. This is the left ventricle. The right ventricle is very thin. And what it does is allows the blue blood to come up and go to the lungs. Okay? The lungs take care of the blue and get rid of the stuff and get the etheric back into the blood. And it goes down into this form from the atrium, goes down into this form, and then leaves and goes through the circulation. But this is a heavy-duty, strong guy, where this guy isn't here. But this guy here is the same size geometrically as this one. What has happened is that this has been pushed, this pushes the vortex that's going around and pushes it in like this and indents the vortex like that, but it still has the same volume, basically the same volume, but it's pushing and indenting, and the doctors call it indenting vortex. And that's because visually it looks like that, but I can show in my vortex generator that it's true, which I can't bring. And so what happens is I put this little guy here, which is the spinning one, which is the bell. I put this in the vortex generator. And the vortex is going like this. And when I put it in here, you can't see the vortex anymore. But you can see all the water going around this, but you can't see this anymore. And I turn the machine off, and this starts to come up and makes this form. But in the meantime, the vortex is like that. Now, if I take this form, which I did, and I have a vortex running, where I take this out, and I set this at 36 degrees, root 3. Root 3 is approximately 36 degrees. It's 35 point da da da, but 36 is the number I use. If I set this at 36 degrees, it pushes this vortex over here out of the line and looks like this. So what I have here is this one at 36 degrees, and the other vortex, which is coming down like this, gets pushed off to the side and looks like that. And from the top, it looks like this.
Wow.
This is the blue blood and the red blood. Now you notice that this circle and this circle, the heart, if you take the atriums off the heart, which I have on here, you'll see that it's exactly the size. The mitrid valve is exactly half the size of the outer size of the heart. Exactly. And I can just take the photograph of the heart, and I draw these lines around here, draw this circle, and there it is. There it is. This is real. That's the mitral valve. So, in a sense, I'm telling you, is that this is two vortexes that are coming together. Your heart is two vortexes. And of course, on top there are atriums, and atriums are like mudrooms where you kind of the blood sort of stays ready for the opening, and then in it goes, or out it goes. Now, what's interesting about this is that this is the left ventricle, the right ventricle, and there's two valves. There's one here and one here. And of course, in the left ventricle, there's a big valve here and one up here. Now, you can take both of these valves out of the human heart. And the reason you want to take them out is because they're not working anymore. And they operate them. Then they take these valves out. They take them out. Still functions. The blue blood still comes in here and goes right to the lungs. Now, the person can't exercise as much, but lives for 30, 40 years without valves. So can you show me a pump that doesn't have a valve? You can't. All pumps have to have valves or they won't work. So is this a pump? Okay. So what I wanted to do was to find what was inside the heart. You know, which I had tried here. I had already tried to find out what was inside it. And so what I did was I took this one. Now I found my other rubber band. Here's two. Okay, I took this one, which you all saw. You saw the tetrahedron and the cube. And the very end was, is it this one? No. Now come on here, where is it? No, it's not that one, it's not that one. Not that one. That's a different one. Do I have some other cubes here?
I think you took it out.
I know, and this is what the other one is. Oh, I took it out.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me. This was the last one, remember? Because it comes right to the midpoint. I took this one out. Because I figured that if that's the end, let's put this back into the beginning. And that's what I did. So I took the beginning, which was the tetrahedron, and I took this one and put it together. So I figured this was maybe the geometry of the inside geometry of the where the ventricle holds all the blood. This was the outside. So then I twisted it again. I twisted them again. And I got this form right here. This is the form I got when I twisted it again. I got this circle with one triangle, and this bigger circle with one triangle, and inside is that form. You can see that there's this little guy inside, and he is lawful, because I have to keep that consistent. And I can turn it around a little bit more, and you can see other parts of it. Okay, those are the two forms together. I put these into organic shapes by blowing bubbles and getting a minimum surfaces. Okay, which you know how I did that. But before I did that, I decided to put them both together. I did. I put them both together. And then I thought, well, now how am I going to make those move? How do you make geometry move? Because the heart just doesn't sit like this. So I figured out how to make this move. And of course, I always try to keep these in the same scale so that they go in the cube, just like they're supposed to. I found out how to make it move. And here's moving. They both move. I figured out how to make them move. Now, the only problem is that the inside of the heart spins. But the outside does this, and it turns a little bit, but not much. It's not like that. But this one doesn't do that. This one expands and contracts, but it turns. Well, I know how am I going to do that? So I made it like this. And here they are together. And here they're both doing the same thing. They're both moving. This is how the human heart works. But the middle one twists like this. And then it twists back, opens up, goes back and twists. You see the twist? Mm-hmm. Now untwist it, twist it, untwist it. It twists 40 degrees. I found that if I twist this another approximately 5 degrees, okay, it makes a whole. See if I can get it to do this. It makes a. This thing got bent on the way over, so I don't know, maybe that's not working right, but it isn't. And if I twist it the other way. So what happens when I take things around, they get broken. Ah, there it is. If I twist it 5 more degrees, I get a new chamber. That chamber is right there. That is the 5th chamber. The 5th chamber is in our heart already, but you can't see it because it's not there. I mean, look, it's gone. But every time that the heart goes through its rhythm, in the future, humanity will be able to have the inside of the heart twist 5 more degrees to create that shape. And that is what Rudolf says is the process of the etheric that will go through the pineal gland and then up to the heart chakra. And when that happens, that will change humanity. We will have a moral force that we don't have now. So that's how I found the possibility of explaining the 5th chamber, and there's not anyone else that's even had an idea. Now, let's say that you get out of balance. What happens when you get out of balance is you'll get the possibility of congestive heart failure. So if you don't work on one of those dragons, okay, you're going to have what the doctors call a heart that's shaped like a sphere. And they call this a basketball, but they don't have very good language. I have found that it is a tetrahedron that is ballooned out. So if I set this down here on one of these plastic stands, if I can find it, and I set it here, this is congestive heart failure. Now a normal heart looks like this. Of course, this is the chestahedron and minimum surfaces. And a constricted heart, which the doctors call a giraffe heart. Let me get a stand here. It looks like this. Now inside these, there are chambers. Now this is the chamber of the constricted heart. The inside chamber. And this is the normal heart. And this is the constricted heart. So, if you look at this in relationship to Michaelmas, if you don't do your work, there's a possibility that your heart will suffer, a good possibility, and this is what can happen if you get stuck on one side or the other. Now, of course, this is the perfect normal heart, but the thing is about it is that's not our goal. Our goal is to be able to go from here to here without getting stuck. So the more that the heart can vary between these two extremes, okay, and go back and forth without getting stuck, the healthier the heart becomes. And that's when this is important. And that's what we're trying to do, is to get our heart so that we're not stuck. So if we get stuck here, this is what happens. And the normal heart, this is the way it works. This turns opposite of this one. And I'll show you them moving together. See how one turns the opposite of the other? Okay. I have research papers from these doctors that do not understand this. They say this is a phenomena that we do not understand. I do not work with phenomena. I work with behind phenomena. What makes phenomena manifest? So what's happening here is that the heart is going like this. You'll notice that they're turning in opposite directions. And when it gets to about right there, then the heart fills with blood, and it does this. So, the doctors have a term called a disassociation in time. And disassociation in time means that the mitral valve and the aorta valve close and stay closed at the same time. And then, so that means that the heart fills 50%. No, the heart, this part here turns 40% in a normal heart. Okay, 20% of that time, which I'm bringing down to here, both valves are closed. And then at 20%, we've got 20% more to go, it does this. What this is suction. The reason it's like an accordion, a three-dimensional accordion, it goes like this, but there's no opening. So boy, this thing is really dying for air when it opens up and just sucks the blood right in. So the heart isn't blood being pumped in, it's being sucked in through this mechanism. Now, all of the blood that's running through the arteries are vortexes. They're going like this. So here's the vein, artery, 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 artery. And that's why this is, the reason it's doing that is because of this. Now the normal heart. Now, all right, let's say that you are very constricted. Okay. What happens is that the heart starts to look like this. Not like this. So what does that mean inside? Because it can't just look at the outside of things, you have to look at the inside. The inside this is what it looks like. You can see that there's very little movement. And in fact, sometimes these are turning in the same direction because there's very little suction. You're constricted. You don't have any more of the flexibility that you need. Okay, and so you get stuck on one particular dragon. And this is what he wants. And then, of course, this gets bigger and bigger, and then you die. You have a heart failure. On the other extreme, okay, is way too restricted. Okay, this is the more or less orange. Because there's very little movement that it can make. It's very hard to move it. So these are the extremes of these two dragons that are around the cube. That's all about preventing Michaelmas happening. So what I'm trying to do is to show you a scientific study that relates to what is being said about this process and this celebration that you have. Okay. Very interesting about this form is that it has a cone that goes inside And I have a couple of them. Oh, here it is. There's a cone that goes inside it, and it goes right to the apex. This is called the apex of the heart. This is the apex, and this is the base. And what's so amazing, if I take the same cone, and I take it here, I take it out, it goes around the outside perfect. Same cone. So this point, and this point touch, and these 3 point touch. Same exact cone. And that's amazing this form can do that. But you also have to remember that this is also a triangle that's exactly half the size of the circle that goes around the larger triangle. This is the mitral valve. This is the valve that opens up to allow the new red blood to come in. Okay, so if this is a cone, okay, then I wanted to know something about the way the fibers line up inside the human heart. And there are 8 layers that start out this way, like this, and reverse like that. Another balancing that the heart is doing. A balancing of diagonals. And the diagonals are at 60 degrees. So somehow I'm going to see if I can get anything up on this that I know you might be able to see that shows that, because it's hard for me to explain. I'll try to show it to you. And there it is there. All I have to do is play it. And it should be shown. No, not it. We'll get it. It is drawn by a doctor. His name was Pettigrew. And he drew this beautiful drawing by, he dissected the human heart. No. I'll get it. Just take a little time. But the thing is that I was very interested in this, and I had this on my wall for, a couple years, and I just kept looking at it, I'm not getting it. So I'll draw it. It looks like this. Here's the human heart. Approximately looks like this when it starts. And the outer layer of the human heart looks like this. What he did is he cut one of the layers off and took it off, so the heart became smaller, and at the same time, the angle started to change. And the third one looked like this. And the middle one looked like this. And then the last, or the fifth one, looked about like this. I'll do all of these. And of course the last one is like this. This should be a little bit more steep, not so steep, not like that. You see what I'm showing? These are, as a good dragon. You've got one layer is like this, the second layer is like this, the third layer, fourth layer, and then it reverses until it's completely opposite. And these are 60 degrees. This is the research, not mine. This is right out of the papers, and I got them right there. So it's a 60-degree difference. What's interesting about that is that, remember that this form that I told you is inside, this is 60 degrees. The octahedron is all 60s. Here. All right. I want to know how this was done, because I knew there was cones, and I saw that, and no one had an explanation of this. Nobody. Well, how this works. They just know it's that way it is, the phenomenon. So what I did was I took a cone, and I start out with a plane, like this, and I put lines on it because that's what we do in projective geometry. We have these lines, and they go out, and maybe they meet, and maybe they don't. So I put them on there because basically those lines are put on plane. I just cut it here, And so I wanted to make a cone that was going to fit in here. So I did. I took it like this. I made two cones, made one cone, and all the lines became curves. I didn't know that. And in fact, this isn't in any of the books. There's no geometry book or any book that shows this. No one's ever done this. And the only reason I did it was because I needed to find out this information. So I always know that there are two cones because I line up those two edges, see? I line those two edges up. Now I have two cones. But that doesn't fit in here. So I'm going to make three. So I take this thing and I make three. And I'll get them lined up here and I'll show you what happens. When I get three together, everything turns into triangles. This whole thing is triangles. You don't understand the projective geometry. Okay, this is the projective geometry that's taking these two lines into infinity and so forth. Well, what happens next? You know, this is what's happening. You know, you got triangles. You went from curves to triangles. I'm still not going to go in. I know it. I can tell. Going in better, though. Oh, I got to do it again. Let's see what I do when I do it again. So if I do it into four, like I just had done, they turn into all squares. Now they're all squares. I'll line it up perfect. I can get them just right. They're all squares. Now you know where the square comes from. Nobody knows where the triangle comes from. Nobody knows where the square comes from. It's coming in from planes. Once I get it into square, believe it goes in.
Wow.
But it's only 4. I need 8. But I got 4, and there's the square, and that's pretty good, but not the answer. But I'm getting to it. So what I decided to do, which maybe you have figured out already, is I just went back to my original thing here, which I've been doing with root 3, okay, and all these other things. Whoop. What I did was I took 2 circles, like this. Instead of 1, I took 2. Remember, I slide that out and it becomes a vesicle. I took 2. I'm right back again to trying to find out the balance between 2 polarities. And I know it's in the middle, root 3, in the heart. So, I did this. Now, I noticed that when these went this way, I didn't draw that, but where the next layer was, it was a straight line. And then the next layer was a straight line. I knew these were tucking in like that, because this part wasn't like that. This was more like this or whatever. I knew this was tucking in, so I knew I was on the right track. Remember, they don't know this. And I drew these lines, except I used 2 of them. I drew these lines on here. I just did it freehand. And of course I had it, because of this line that was here, I had it going in, just like they had. And of course on my website it shows it perfect. So what I did was, I decided, well, I'm going to try this now. So what I did is I took this and I rolled it into a cube. A cone. Now I had some paper clips that really was helpful, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to find them. Found one. So if I line this up right where it's supposed to be, you know, how do I know where it's supposed to be? I do, because I've got a cone. I know that is accurate. So I roll this around, just like I'm saying this is a cone. So I take a cone like this, and I roll it around until I get it to the point. I need a paper clip. Will you have a paper clip? Oh, that's better than what I've got. That's pretty cool. That came out of your hair.
It did.
All right, so I'm going to roll this around like this until I get to where I put these together. You'll see where I put them together. I got done it with Scotch tape. See the Scotch tape there? That's where I put them together. So this is coming to one. Now that's 4 layers. Well, that's what I wanted. I'll put the hair clip there. Okay, so I got to go down here and do it on this one. And I'll do the same thing on this end. So I'll put this together like this. Now I start to roll this one. I got to make sure it's right. I'm going to roll this one up. And I want to get it. Because I know this because it's turning in opposite directions. You know, it's so weird, doesn't it? Sometimes get this backwards. So weird. You have to remember that a lot of the things that happen, and when you do research, okay, you got to really make sure that anybody else can do it and that you can repeat it. But along the way, there's a lot of times you just, like you saw what I did. I wrote it the wrong way. So here we got the 2 cones. There they are. Here's 4 layers and here's 4 layers, but it's in the middle. Now the problem is that this isn't the way it works. So what the doctors say, okay, we're going to cut this in half and put that one inside there. The problem is that you put it in there and just take it right out. And the heart isn't like that. The heart is, man, that thing is not going to take apart. So I kept studying shells, and I finally decided I knew what to do. So what I did was I did this. I just went on, and I just decided I would just keep rolling in this direction. And so I did. And I got to the end. And I got eight layers. So, if I do this right, this will come out exactly the way it's supposed to. But like I told you, I have to give you a story. I was at the Gerthianum giving a lecture, and I told everybody that I knew how to figure out how to square the circle by using the vesicle, this very process here. And I did. It's in my book. It's in the book. It tells you how to do it, the whole bit. Now I'm going to roll this up right. Anyway, so I couldn't do it. I walked up the board and I couldn't do it. I said, look, I didn't bring this, and I can't remember how I did it. And so, everybody's looking at me. Yeah, oh, wow. So anyway, I said, well, you try again. I said, sure, I'll go try again. I walk up there again. And I tried, I couldn't do it. It's really a 0. And I walked back and I told him I couldn't do it. So this one guy stands up. An old guy stands up and he says, now I know this guy's authentic. I go, what do you mean? He says, in spiritual work, okay, you can't remember it. He says you have to start all over again each time. It's not something you can always remember. I was a hero. It was great. Anyway, so that's not exactly what happened here, but what I wanted to show you here is if I take this process here and I unroll this and cut one of them off, so it's the second one, I roll another roll, this is the third one, and I roll the fourth one. Now the horizontal. I'll keep going. Now they're starting to go up. I keep going up. And then the fourth, the last one, is you have the exact opposite. And what is that? That's 2 balancing between the vesicle of root 3. It's 2 polarities. Again, to tell you that there is a dragon that's inside you that you have to be dealing with. That's not just one. It depends on the person. So, glad you like it. Another thing is this. another thing they have in the heart research, the people in the heart research, they have this shape, and this is the basic shape that these are in, and that looks like this. And if you see on my website or on this PowerPoint presentation, you'll see that there's a part of this is going like this, and underneath it's going like that. So inside this, they say, this is the thickness of the muscle. They say that there is this going on. They say inside the heart, on the outside of the heart, there is a band that starts here and goes down like this, and goes around like that, wraps around here, goes back up and goes to the inside. Now again, we have something going from the periphery, okay, to the inside of the smaller circle, which is also in the periphery. But we have this loop. It's really a neat loop. Goes around like that. And they have all this in the research. I got it all in my research. I get all these research papers free off the internet. And the reason I order research papers is because I studied the heart for a year in the library at the University of California Medical School, and I found that most of the heart books that they have are referring to research. So I thought, what am I reading this for? I'm going to go read the research. So I went and got the research, and I have 50 of them, over 50 of them, that I copied free off the internet. Most of them are for sale. I copied all the free ones. And I found out that there's that loop. I found it in that shape. There's that loop. It goes from the outside, goes around like this, goes around and goes up here to the inside of the center one. So I found the loop. I found the loop is in a cone. Now, they don't know this. The research people don't know this. They know that there is a loop. And they, of course, dissect it and all the things they measure, get their magnets out. But they don't know, is this part of the loop or this part of the loop in the third layer, or is it in the fourth layer? They don't know that. So the problem is if they start to operate, then where are they cutting? So what I did is I found out where those loops were. So I'm going to show you. There's the loop. And that's beautiful geometry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a table. I'm going to flatten this out because I can't do it up here. The plastic's too flexible. So I'm just going to put it on here and flatten it out to show you what I did. See how it is? It's just so hard to control these things, but I think I've got it. So here it is, flattened out. You ready?
Yeah, this is straight.
It's root 3.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's amazing! Who's doing this? Who's responsible for this? I want to meet him. This is absolutely amazing what's happened. So, the thing I want to show you is this one. I'm going to go back to this one here that I did before. And of course, this is the seven-sided form in the sphere. And that represents the heart of the earth. There is a heart in the earth. Rudolf Steiner said that in the earth there was a somewhat tetrahedron. And he gave the points where they were. Exactly these 3 points on this one. Exactly. He gave 4 points.
That curve.
Oh, okay, you have questions now. Yeah.
Well, that curve that you're just talking about, kind of in relation to the motion of the Earth around the sun, the lemniscate, the infinite symbol, and talking about that like man hieroglyph of the universe.
I don't know about
it's
that.
kind of a symbol I
but
recognized.
that, you see, the heart in the earth is not like this, it's like this, it's upside down. And in here, okay, there's a cone, which I showed you before, so that more people can understand more what I'm trying to show, is that if I put this in here, if I take this one, which is the same size cone as the outside one, and I put a sphere on the top, There are the cones inside the form inside the Earth. And I found that this cone right here is where the aurora comes in, or the energy from the sun, which is called plasma or solar wind. And it goes down here, it comes across here, and goes back out here. And the aurora at the top always has an oval around here. That's because you can go to space around in here, but it's never in here, because that's where the energy is coming in. And it has to go right through the core of the Earth before it returns back and comes out. So in the idea, the subjective idea I have, not objective, it's subjective, is that the aurora that you see is coming from the Earth. It's a processed energy from the sun that's been processed through the core of the Earth, which is iron, and comes back in that color that you see, and that is not physical. It's a processed life force energy that's gone through the Earth. And also there's an aurora at the bottom of the Earth, and that aurora also is that size circle, exactly. And look on the internet. But it travels across here. The aurora will go across here, it'll go inside here like this, but never at the top. You'll never have the aurora that you see that's colored from the space. You'll never see it go across there because of this. That's why it won't go. It's also why it's oval here. Can you see what I mean by the oval? I'll draw it on a board. This is very easy for me to draw because I've already got it drawn. So, this is where the energy comes in, into this area. But it comes out between here and here, and it looks like this. Lots of times it'll look like this. Sometimes it'll go out a little bit, but basically it stays and never goes in here. It goes around like that. And look at, go on the internet, look under NASA, look under aurora, space. Pictures of the aurora, space. Okay. A lot of them are taken from the Earth or near it, and you'll just see these streaks going across, but you'll never see it from a distance. And you'll see that there are two rings, and you'll see that the aurora goes in between those rings. So this is the only explanation that I've found that has any idea of why this might be happening. But this is subjective. Remember, this is objective, but my interpretation now is subjective. So a little bit of my subjectivity comes in. But basically, what I'm not trying to do is to teach you my vision of the world. And that's what you're going to be careful. Is when you get all these kind of different lectures coming through, they're going to show you what they see. Okay. What I'm doing is show you what the geometry sees. What do you see the geometry says? Not me. The geometry saying this. Now, I only interpreted one thing, and that was this. Okay.
The Van Allen something,
So I have, I need you to either talk louder or I need to come up to you.
the Van Allen, whatever this,
The Valentine?
Van Allen,
Van Allen belts.
yeah, how does that?
Okay. The Van Allen belts happen to be a sort of a donut or a tire that goes around the Earth, if you're not familiar with that. It's a tire. It looks like an inner tube. Goes around the Earth. And apparently, this guy named Van Allen shot a rocket up with a Geiger counter. And when it went up, the Geiger counter went off and then went off. And then it came back on and then went off, came back on, came off. And they figured out where all of these different readings made a tire, a donut. Okay, so in that process, the Van Allen belts are supposed to be protecting the Earth from harmful radiations that's being soaked up by this belt. Okay, that's the explanation. The only thing that I've found that relates to that is if I stellate points out, and that means if I take this surface and I stell it out and make a star, it looks like this, and down here it looks like this. And if I take a ring around those stellation points, that's where the Van Allen bells are. Again, they don't know why it's there, or why it's that size. At least we have some geometry that's giving them some clue. Van Allen bells, interesting question. Oh, I'm basically finished here with this. I want to tell you that what is happening on Nicholas and what he was expecting of us is that we need to work in a direction that we improve the health of our heart. Okay? And how do we do that? We balance. We have to do what the heart is all constructed about the loop, okay, about the myofibers, as they call them. Okay, that's also coming from the same balancing point. The form itself, how it fits into all the different geometries, indicate that we need to balance our life. And that's by working with these powers that are trying to divert us from doing what we're supposed to do. Because we're all here to do something. We all made an agreement when we came across. And that agreement we can make sometimes, and maybe sometimes we can't. But what we're doing is trying. And for instance, this research of mine started when I was 60. I had no idea I would do anything like this in my life. I had nothing to do with the heart, nothing to do with bells, nothing to do with the vortex or vortex organizers. I have these things that undo unbelievable what it does in water. So anyway, what I want to tell you is that whatever you agreed to do, that what you're doing right now is exactly what you're supposed to do. There isn't anybody in here that's doing anything wrong with what they're supposed to be doing. Everything, this lecture, the lecture you heard 2 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, it was at the right time and it was for you. And what you have to do is to try to find out how that relates to what you came here to do. And one of the ways is to relax and realize that what you're doing is perfect. What you understand and you don't understand is perfect. If you don't understand something you just heard in here, that's perfect. You're not supposed to know it yet. Or you're not supposed to know it at all. You're supposed to use it or not use it. It doesn't matter to me. All I do is come in here and show you what I found that I had to do when I came here. I found what I had to do. And one of the things that you do to find that out, to relax a little bit, is to try to go back into your life about 10 years before you were born. And look there.
That's easy.
What?
That's easy.
Oh, sure, that's easy. You know, I'll tell you how easy it is. It's so easy. All you got to do is look at your parents and see what they were doing, okay, when you were 10. No, when you were born, which would be in year 10. Let's say you're 10, let's say you're 20 or 30, whatever. You look back about 10 years before you were born by looking at what your parents were doing that they were good at for the reason that you came in because of what they were doing that you needed. You needed what they were doing, what they were good at, what made them fire. Okay? And if you don't find anything, that's okay. That's still a finding, isn't it? You still found something. Try to find out what interests them, why they liked each other, how did it change between those times and today. Okay, that will indicate for you basically where you can start with what you came to do by what they were good at or not good at. Okay, another thing is you can do something like this. You can try to find out something that you would do for your life work where you would have to pay the boss, pay the employer, pay for the work that you do every day. You have to pay, not them paying you. And if you find that, okay, that's what you're looking for. You were looking for something you would do for free. Mm-hmm. And love it. Whether it made money or not, whether it made fame or whatever, none of that matters. Position, job, money, all that doesn't matter. That's not part of the process. Part of the process is what lights up in you. And that's what you're looking for. Not what lights up in somebody else. Okay? Has nothing to do with geometry. Maybe it does. I don't know. So these are the kind of things that I'd like to leave with you in relationship to Michaelmas, that this is what he's waiting for you to do. And all of you have a reason to be here for that. I don't know what the reason is, but you're going to find out. And if it's not this lifetime, it'll be another one. It'll be, you're in preparation for another one. Don't know. I mean, I was preparing for 60 years. Somebody asked me, well, how come you didn't do this when you were 30? What? Good question, The reason I didn't is because I wasn't ready. I didn't have the skills. I didn't have all that I needed to do this court. I couldn't have made these things or all this kind of stuff. I had to develop on my abilities as a craftsman. Okay? And why I thought, well, I used to wonder, why do I have to make things so well? I mean, why do I have a kind of a desire to make something well? And I look back at my dad. He was the best craftsman I've ever have seen. He could make things like you couldn't believe, and I used to try to compete with him, and I never could do it. I never could be as good as he was until today. Now I'm as good as he is. Okay, but I needed him. He was my hero. My mother was a nurse. I almost died of a heart attack. Not a heart attack. I had a heart murmur. And that means I had a hole between the blue blood and the red blood. And they would mix. Okay, and it took years I think it took me 7 years to heal up. Okay. My two brothers died of heart problems. My dad worked on the first heart-lung machine in the world. It was a big machine like this that was used during operations, not to replace anything, but just used as operations. He worked on that. So those are indications, of what you can look for in your parents. And there was a time, that I didn't want to look at my parents for anything, and it's like this, but not now. Now it's different. With age, it changes, Whether you actually do the changing yourself, the age will do it. So, what else I can tell you? I can tell you that what you see in front of you are the results of many mistakes, many failures. I can't tell you how many times I failed. And the problem is that if you look at failure, okay, on one side of this dragon, it'll put you down. I never was put down by the failure, okay, because it led to the success. I was closer to the success on this side, on this dragon over here. I was closer to the success of what I was trying to get because of the failures. But then when I got the success over here, okay, I couldn't get inflated. Okay, think, that's it, I'm going to relax, kick back, go skiing. I went back to the process, which I failed again. And so I went back and forth and back and forth. And that's what the healthy heart wants to do. It wants to go between these extremes. It needs to go between the two dragons. It has to go, because the healthy heart is one that's not stuck on one side or the other. It moves back and forth. It's not afraid to be on this side of the dragon or this side of the dragon. Huh? Go over there and see what it's like for inflation. And go over here and see what it's like for depression. Don't get stuck. So you have a death in the family, don't be afraid to grieve. If you have a child that, the school honor or anything, don't be afraid to really enjoy that. Don't get stuck there. Well, that's the thing you have to do. You have to let go. I was very egocentric, okay, until, in my youth. Okay, I was the most egocentric guy you'd ever want to meet. But when I came to this work, okay, I gave up my ego completely. I gave up everything. I gave all my freedom away. For 14 years, I don't do anything like, go on boat rides or, you know what I mean. I don't have an idea. You know why? I gave up my freedom. And when I gave it up, I became freer than I ever have been. I am now free like you can't believe. I mean, you don't know me before, but compared to the egocentric freedom I thought I had, this is nothing compared to this. So I am free to do what I want, and I do it all day long, and all week long, and all month long, and all year long. If I take a break, I walk on the beach. And I like that because that beach walk that I take almost every day, I live across the street from the beach, is that it's where the earth and water meet. Okay, those are the two elements, and right there is a membrane, and I walk in that membrane because that allows me to go back and forth, Okay, earth is what's different, and water is what's changing. So I can walk along what's changing, and what's different, and what's changing, and what's different. Because I know those two elements. Okay, I know that the earth is what's different, and water is what's changing. Air is what's reversing. And the heart is what's transforming. The heart transforms everything. So there's a membrane. So that's one of the things that I do. I'm trying to tell you to try to find something in your life that indicates that you're working with the balancing, okay? And the only way you can work with the balancing is to have the polarities. If you don't have the polarities, you can't balance anything. What are you trying to do? You need these things. So Jim, what else should I tell him?
Help.
What?
We need help.
Help. Oh, you're talking about me. Oh, he's...
No, we need help with this research, and then you guys can do to help us out.
He's talking about helping me. That means by buying one of my sculptures or buying a cheap print I have or whatever. Because what that does is I'm completely unfunded. I have no backing. I have no scholarships, no nothing. Okay? Except this little retirement I have. And I spend all my money on that. Which isn't, all this stuff is basically paper and sticks. So,
And mud.
what?
And mud.
I am mud too. See, that's the reason at the middle of this here, and that's another thing I want to tell you. See, the front cover of this thing is sticks and mud. I mean, what kind of cover is that? Well, I've changed it, but inside it's still 7 Sticks in Mud, The Art and Science of Frank Chester. That's how I started. I started out with 7 sticks. I put into seed and put mud around to hold them from falling out. That's how I started my research 14 years ago. And of course, when I connected all these things, I got 10 sides, not 7. 7 sticks connected doesn't make 7, it makes 10. So I knew I was in trouble. So I went on and on and on and on for 14 years, okay? But that's how I started. You don't have to be sophisticated. A second grader can do this. You don't have to be sophisticated, and you don't have to have some big goal like you want to change the world. Don't change the world, just change you. That changes the world.
While you were talking about the doctors and the heart, why do these doctors need to know all of this geometry about the heart?
The chakras, or
Geometry of the heart.
Geometry, why do they need to know this?
who needs
The
that?
doctors.
Okay. I mean, I can give you a very insulting answer to that, but I won't do that. Okay. The doctors have tools that they use to figure out the phenomena of the human heart. The blood comes in, it twists, it reverses, and goes out. So they have these magnetic imaging machines that measures through magnets or tagging or dyes and all these different ways to see the blood go in and out. Now we can see it. Look, goes through here, 1/4 of a second. Okay, but they don't understand why. All they know is this is what it's doing. But they don't know the phenomena behind the mechanism of what's working. Geometry shows you that. Geometry goes back to the scaffold. Goes you back to the original design or the original concept of why these things work. So, when I talk to the doctors about this, I tell them that all the 50 papers that I've read, I agree with every one of them. There isn't one research. It is. Someone will take it up. A lot of doctors, I gave a big doctors conference in San Francisco. It was all doctors for 2 days. And I didn't have one of them ever come up to me and say, hey, well, that's bunk. They want to know more about it. But the problem is they don't know anything about geometry. So it's hard to, say, okay, well, you need to draw some circles. They said, wait a minute, that's not what I do. Of course. But it is a tool that somebody can start to take up. And that's what I have in this book. So when that book goes out for sale and somebody a doctor sees it and they say, oh my gosh, what is that? They go to my website, and on my website there's a new website that I developed called Heartistic Science. Not artistic, but heartistic. And it's all about the lectures. And this one will, well, the one I gave in Portland will be on there. And it's all the lectures I've given on the human heart.
So are the doctors receptive to it?
What's that?
Do you think they're receptive when you lecture to them? Are they receptive to what you're
Well,
saying?
I want to write a book with me, right? I want to write a book with you. Oh, what do you mean? They are receptive. And there wasn't one doctor. Okay, they bought more of my stuff. They bought my jewelry. The one doctor said that jewelry, she took it off that night, put it back on, and the next day she said, I felt the difference between the jewelry that she bought from me. I have jewelry based on the heart. It's at 36 degrees. So yeah, I mean, are you surprised?
So what do you mean about the jewelry then? I mean, she felt something?
Well, I have, and here I have jewelries.
Yeah.
Here they are here. These are, there's the chestahedron, and there's the Venus. And the Venus is an inversion of the chestahedron, which turns into two hearts. And the doctors, this is the one the doctors bought.
But
And
said
you
she
can
felt
buy
something.
those,
She
or
felt
not
something
buy
that
them,
you
but
don't?
if you make a donation at the suggested price, you end up getting it for free because you get the tax deduction.
So can this jewelry be bought on the website?
The jewelry?
Uh-huh.
And could you just say a little bit about your work with architecture and how what you're doing with this in relation to
With
building?
architecture?
Yeah.
Well, I was invited to go to the Goetheanum for the celebration of the 100th anniversary of Rudolf Steiner's architectural impulse. So I had 3 months to prepare, and I designed a building for America, not for Europe. And so what I did is I started out with the first Goetheanum, which had 2 cupolas. And I found out that in the chestahedron, in this form, there are 2 spheres. So I had designed a building that had the 2 cupolas standing up now, not laying down. And so in the book here, I have pictures that show that. There's the top of the building is here, and this is the front of the building. Here it shows the outside of it, which uses the dual that goes around the chestahedron. These are nylon strings, so this will probably be the biggest musical instrument in the world. I'll be able to play this building. The colors are coming from tourmaline that's on the outside of the building, so there's no color affixed to the building itself. It's all done from the sun. It has 7 bells in it, based on the 7 seals, based on my form, my bells. His seals show a transformation of form through ice. This is through tone. It'll be a transformation of tone. And of course, it's divided into the galleries, and it's all for eurythmy and performances of the mystery dramas or concerts or whatever in the main building. And of course, it's all based on 5, 6, and 7. The 2 cupolas are 5 and 7. Rudolf Steiner's cupolas are 5 and 7. But the difference is he measured across it with a ruler to get 5 and to get 7. I didn't. All I had to do is take my form, and the 5 and 7 are around the periphery, not across the center. So the periphery is 5, periphery is 7. Perfect. Which makes these paintings that I have, or these drawings that I have here, once in a while you'll see them. The cupolas are based on this. So one cupola, this is like if you laid this down like he did, this is the 5 and this is the 7. But this is based around the periphery that divides these 2. And this circle and this circle came from this one. If I extend a line straight up here, it hits this circle, and I go around where that distance is, the one sits here, which is projective geometry. I found that this divides this into 7 perfectly. And where the two come together is a hexagram. So I designed the building, you know, it's short and sweet what I'm telling you, based on those proportions. If some architect comes along and wants to do this, I'll give them all my information. But I'm not going to do it. See, I have to do what I'm good at. You know? And this is what I'm good at. I'm not good at architecture. I don't know where to put the plugs and air conditioning and all, you know, exit doors and all that kind of stuff. What size doors you use on. That's for an architect. So that's how I look at it. I'm not here to design any more buildings. I mean, I can, but this one here is my contribution to Rudolf Steiner. If somebody wants to use it, great. But it's this building is based on the human heart. And anybody who goes into this building is going into the geometry that works as a human heart. And I've been told that this is where the Grail study should be done, is in a building like this. Yes?
I was just curious if you could elaborate more on the idea or how your work intersects with like explaining the heart not being an actual pump, but somehow the heart not as a pumper of blood.
Yeah, the thing is there are many doctors that go around and say that the heart is not a pump now. A lot of them. Of course, that came originally from Rudolf Steiner. But even other doctors before him were talking about the heart wasn't a pump. And of course, I'm not here to talk about that, you know, that the heart is not a pump. But I just told you something, that how is it possible for the right ventricle, okay, to get the blood to the lungs without valves? There's no such thing as a pump without valves. It's just, what is it? You got to have stop to have a pump. You got to have stop and start and stop and start, stop and start. And a lot of people use this hydraulic ram as an explanation how this happens. The water comes in and goes back and pops up, which is what the doctor showed me. And that's fine. But you need a way to stop the flow with a valve, and there is no valves. Well, how can that be a pump? And also, this is based on suction. Okay? It's not pressure. The heart is not based on pressure. Although there is a pressure part of it, but it's not really a pressure pump. It's a balance between the two. And a lot of it is basically suction. So that's all I can really say about it. You know, all I really want to say. I mean, there's a lot I could say about, you know, how can the heart do what it does if it's a pump because of the size of the arteries and how far it has to go and come back and so forth and so on. I leave that to the doctors.
Just curious, have you passed a beam of light through your
Who?
chest? A beam of light through your chestahedron to see what kind of color comes out on the other side?
Now, who is this?
Have you passed a beam of light through the chestahedron?
No.
To see what kind of color comes out?
You
on
know,
the other side?
I haven't. But why it's so interesting what you said is because the chestahedron, okay, and all the platonic forms come from a prism. And so interesting you said that.
Come from
All of the platonic forms, and including the chestahedron, is coming from a prism. And I've found that through my research. That's not printed anywhere. It's not in the books. But it's interesting you mentioned that about the color. It has seven sides, 7 points, 7 colors. Comes from a prism. 7th white light going through it brings 7 colors. Well, there's something there, but I don't know. That's not my work. I don't do that. Or you know.
Is it important to know where those points are in the earth, or where the points of this form touch the earth? What areas?
All right, the question is from Dolores, is those points, where it touches there, is that important? Well, like I told you, Rudolf Steiner had indicated the 3 points. 4 points, actually, south point. Okay, so one of the points, I found this, okay, independent of that. And what I did is I knew it was in the earth. Well, I didn't know it was in the earth. I just put it in the earth. And I put it in there. And when I did this, I knew that there were the 3 points here, and there was the base of the South Pole. I knew that if I turned this, I needed to get these points on land. So if I turned it in certain ways, it always hit water, until I hit Japan. And when I hit Japan, then all the points hit Earth, Earth surfaces, not oceans. Rudolf Steiner said that one of the points was Japan. Ha! Now the idea is this, is that you don't go looking for Rudolf Steiner to prove him. What you do is you prove what you can, and then use him as a reference. Use Rudolf Steiner as a reference to something that you found instead of trying to copy him. You don't want to copy the guy, that's all everybody does is copy him. That's not going to lead anywhere. What you need to do is do your own work and relate it to him. And then what does that do? Oh, it puts him in a whole light, a different light, than if you copy him. You can refer a real star. Who's that? Oh yeah, we'll go look him up. All right. There's a guy in Portland, his name is Walter Rice, and he's a travel agent. Okay. And he wants me to put a group together to travel to Japan, okay, and go to this area, because this area is a very spiritual area. It's a volcano, and all around it are spiritual leaders and whatever you want to say. All around that area. And it's called Mount Dread, the area where this point is. Mount Dread. In Japanese, I don't remember the name exactly. But so, a group will be going over there, if I decide to do this, and talk about that point, and study the area, and so forth and on, just what you're thinking about that. The other point is in Nebraska. I'm taking a tour there. I'm not. And then the other one is around Greece.
In Greece?
Around Greece. It's actually in a mountain area, kind of in Russia, but close to Greece. Those are Rudolf Steiner's indication. Mine makes it a little more accurate because I have the form. I don't have clairvoyance. He does. So his clairvoyance may be pretty. It is pretty accurate, isn't it? But the geometry is a little more.
So what's in Nebraska that is important?
What is in Nebraska?
Yeah.
Oh, geez, I put the, I've gone to Google and all that, try to find, it looks like a field and nothing. It's just a bunch of weeds.
Except one thing.
Except one thing.
Tornado Alley.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
It's right in the middle of town, Tornado Alley. And if you look on the internet and see what happens to all these tornadoes, they make a right-hand turn. When they get to this area, where that point is, they turn right. And that's exactly what the form does. At Tornado Alley, it comes up like here and goes that way. And that's the edge that goes across the chestahedron. It follows the edge. And I've also found, well, these tornadoes, follow a line. Because this would be a line that goes up Tornado Alley. And so I went on the internet and I looked up tornadoes. And of course there's one, and there'd be two, but that could be like, it may not be a line, it may be a curve like that or something. So then I found a patch of tornadoes, where there were 4. There are 4 tornadoes, and sure enough, they're all in line, going like that. Well, that was encouraging.
What about earthquake zones that are related? The chestahedron inside the globe to an earthquake zone?
Okay, the Earth and the
Yeah.
chestahedron in it.
Yeah. Have you
Earthquakes.
Have you followed the chestahedron lines inside the Earth to see if they relate to an earthquake zone?
Relate to?
Earthquake zones.
Oh, I did.
You did?
Rudolf Steiner's first, the third lecture before he died was all about volcanoes and about what was inside the Earth. So what I did was, at that very time I was studying this, there came out in Scientific America called Sculpting the Earth from Inside Out, from the inside. So studying the inside of the Earth. And there was a guy that was doing research at Cal State Technology in Los Angeles. And he had scanned the whole Earth and flattened it out like a map. And he had areas where there was blue and areas where there was yellow and areas where green. Not green, but red. And so it looked really good to me because I know how to take and make a flat map of off a sphere, I know how to do that, and I did. I just flattened it out into a sphere, and I followed all the lines. What's interesting, when you flatten it out on a flat sheet, there are curves. Well, they are here too, because if you bring this curve out, if you bring this point out to the sphere, that's a curve. So anyway, I drove down there to see this guy. I said, hey, what's the deal here with your research? What does all this mean? What's this and this and this and this? And he was real happy to talk to me because nobody had assigned to him. And he said, well, he says the blue are real deep areas in the earth. And the red are the areas that are really close to the surface, and then the yellow are a little deeper. And I said, what are all those blue lines? I see there's a pattern. And he says, well, we don't know what that is. But we do know that it's like a tooth, the root of a tooth that's going in deep into the earth and it's cold. So I laid my thing out on top of his, and one of those dark lines is exactly the curve of the chestahedron. And it goes right straight across the ring of fire, which is where all the volcanoes are. So those things were good, but there are other points that are a little different, and a little off and so forth. But the main point was right on. And that's in the book.
So, do we think, because I see a lot of this stuff sort of get talked about in sort of, I guess you would call New Age books and things like that, where they talk about earth energies, vortex points, and stuff like that. So it's like the shape of the tetrahedron correspond to lines of force and these so-called vortex points.
Mm-hmm. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. Curious. Yeah.
Okay, so those kind of things, about forces and, different sides and so forth, or edges, or corners, whatever. I don't really know much about that. I don't really study that. The only thing I know is, like I was saying, that I sell a chestahedron, something like this, but it has the dual in it. And then I also sell another one that has a dual with the chestahedron in it. And a chiropractor emailed me and said, hey, I'm really interested in those things. I want to buy one. What is it? And I gave him the price. He said he ordered 3. Wow, this is great. What's the deal with the chiropractor? So anyway, he ordered them, and then he called me back and he says, I got to tell you what happened. I said, yeah, I want to know. Well, why'd you buy them in the first place? He said, because I wanted to clear out the energy in my room, my therapy room, for the next client when it comes in. So it's clean, it's sharp, fresh. So he said he figured this would do it because he's had so many things that he's tried before that didn't work very well, or kind of worked a little bit. But he thought, this one might do it. So he took the chestahedron, like I described, and he put it on a turntable. Do you display jewelry in the jewelry stores? You know how they turn like that, right? And he put it on there, and he left it on. He left it on all night. And the next morning he came in and he says, it was so fresh and sharp in that room. No windows. So he was really impressed. And so he said that he left it on all day. And the next night, or the next day when he woke up, he says that the energy was in this whole house, completely in his whole house. The whole air felt fresh and sharp. And then he said the next day he went out, and it was all the way out his driveway to his mailbox. Okay, and I said, wait a minute. I said, first off, how are you testing this? And also, I can tell you how to stop the energy. And you need to. How far is this going to go? What are you going to do? So he said, okay, and he told me, he's written 3 books, and he sent me one of his books, and he came out to San Francisco twice to see me, and he bought 2 other ones that were the opposite, and then he put them on 2 turntables, and they turn in different directions. And of course, the direction that he turns these, he figured out, and I told him that was lawful because that's the direction that the blood enters the heart. So I was right. And then he took this one on the opposite direction, which is the same kind of thing going on here with these 2 circles and polarities and balancing movements, and he put them together like this. And he said it was unbelievably powerful. He said he couldn't believe it. And so someone told him that it should be put on you like these things. Take the chestahedron, and this lady said, put it on a slab of rose quartz. Huh? Well, I did it. I bought one of these turntables. And I put it on and started spinning it, let it spin and so forth. And my wife didn't, you know, what's that, you know? I said, well, that's what the guy said. Oh, that's cool. Then I put the slab of pink quartz. That's where gold, you know, grows. And the next day, she said, wow, what is that you got in here? What have you been doing in here? That one she picked up.
The rose quartz.
She picked it up.
A lot of people use bells to clear space.
Yes.
And they use like a Belize from Bali, which has a shape different than that kind of a European bell shape. Is there a difference in the quality of when that's made into a bell?
Okay. Yeah, there's in the book there's a guy who made the chestahedron into a wind harp. I don't know if you know that or not, but he made a 16 feet high and it's made out of stainless steel, and he has nylon lines that are running down into it like a harp. Okay, and then he set it out in his property. This is what he does. He makes wind harps, and the wind came through it. He said it just was an unbelievable sound, a bell sound. About the bell itself, this bell here, okay, I never could afford to have one cast out of bell bronze. So I never did it for years and years and years. So what happened was the man who, in England, his name is Angus Gordon, and he has developed 4 colleges. And these colleges are taking old buildings that were shut down, factories, like a glass factory, and he brings into the building he gets from the government, and then he makes it into a school and teaches glass blowing and cut glass and all the glass things that they were doing in 100 years ago. And now he brings in the students in there. Now he's done this 4 times. Now they're begging him with buildings. They're trying to give him buildings now. And now in the buildings he has cast the bell. And he has these in all the buildings, and he's also formed a collection of some kind, and they're providing bells for all the Waldorf schools and throughout England. And he's not charging them. So all the Waldorf schools within a year will have all these bells. There's also a Camp Hill Gaunt in New York. That's a $10 million building they just put up. They bought my Venus bell. I went up there and had everybody make them in the workshop. Everybody explained, and then I gave them the bell, and they had a ceremony. So the bell has a tone of F, and it's suspended by a point. It doesn't have a handle on it. And the reason I did that is because the handle dampens the bell. Okay, it doesn't have a pure sound anymore. Whereas on a point, okay, the whole bell can resonate. Now, I made these based on the real designer's seal. So here's a picture of his seal. This is what I was first inspired by. It was the Saturn seal. And after years, I found out that the Saturn seal are really 7 bells. That's why it has these curves. So there are 7 bells there. Here they are here too. This is the Saturn bell. So I took the seal and I brought it up like this and brought it in so it has the physical, the etheric, the astral, and the ego. Right there in the Saturn bell. And then I made a Venus bell. Did the same thing with the Venus bell. And there it is. That's the Venus bell. This is the one that they bought in England. No, I'm sorry, in New York. This bell. Here's the bell in geometry, so the geometry is accurate. And these bells are, I still have a Saturn bell at home. They are different. This sounds different than the other one. The Saturn bell has a different tone than this. So it seems that the design that Riddle Center came up with that I just brought up, okay, are different. But they're beautiful sounding because I had a music guy come over and I rang it for him and he said, that thing rang for so long. I said, sure, because there's not a damper on top of it.
Wow.
You guys have lots of good questions. That's what's really good about this group that doesn't get too big. You know? And you probably all know each other. That's really great.
I have a question,
Wait.
I have a question, now the technology fracking, and then also
Fracking in the earth to get natural gas.
Yeah, okay.
and then another thing is that put waste into the earth. How does it two questions.
What is the second?
Waste in the earth.
Well, what was the first question?
The first question is
Yeah.
how does it impact?
About natural gas.
How does that, how,
Two questions. Other questions. What?
The first one is fracking. How does it impact the earth?
Suction.
Fracking.
Cracking.
fracking, he wants to know how fracking impacts the earth. You know what fracking is, of course.
It will be on
For to get
Francesca.com.
gas out.
You mean by putting water down there to get the gas out?
That's
And what is that?
Another question is that develop way that put waste into carbon storage in the earth.
Nuclear waste?
You know, the blue carbon with the emission.
CO2.
Emission. Yes.
CO2.
Right, they want to stuff CO2 under your.
Okay. The only thing I can tell you about those things, fracking or CO2, whatever, is that I don't know. And the only thing I do know is that there's a geometry in the Earth that indicates the size of the core of the Earth, the outer core, and the shell, or the crust, and the outer surface of the L. I can show that perfectly with geometry. Perfect. I have it. And it's based on this. I'm trying to answer this question the best I can. It's based on this. This is the chestahedron in that circle that I eventually had at the beginning. But the silver circle that runs, see this got broken because they get squashed, and that's the way it goes. But anyway, it's supposed to be accurate. This right here, this ring right here, okay, this ring is known as, and is perfectly measurement of, the fruit of the seed of life. And this ring with all this geometry that goes outside that ring is known as the flower of life. And these flower of lives are taught in all the Waldorf schools. Okay, and I have found that the chestahedron supports the flower of life. It's what's in the 3 dimensions. They've never been able to find out the 3-dimensional shape of the flower of life. Now it's here. And what is this part up here is a cube, and this part is a sphere, exactly the size of the Earth. The next one is the outer core, which is exactly this dimension here. And the inner core is the size of a sphere inside a cube. Perfect. I now can show that the core of the Earth, the outer core, the crust, and the outer surface of the Earth is perfect geometry based on 7-sided form. Now that's good. Now, as far as these things and the effect on Earth, what's the effect of these atomic bombs going on under the Earth? And all this bombing and all this kind of stuff, what is that doing? Okay? A lot of people that say that that's why the sky is getting less and less blue. And the blue is the etheric.
I think that's because.
And a lot of people think these contrails are doing something. All of the metal that's coming down from these contrails, all these kinds of exhaust systems. Well, you guys know more than this than I do.
They're spraying in
But
the
there
air.
are all kinds of this kind of stuff going on that's hurting the Earth. Okay? But one of the things I have to tell you is that I don't want you to think that I'm passive on this, but I do want to tell you that the Earth is here for us. When we drive a car, okay, every time we drive a car, everybody does, okay, you're harming the Earth. You're killing it. You're taking from it, doing the exhaust, whatever, and go into the air. We're all responsible for all of this stuff that's going on. So the only thing we can do is not change what we do with the automobiles, not to change us. We have to change what's in us. So that we don't do this with the cars, or we don't do this with the oil, or we don't buy from a certain place that wants to mess around with our seeds and our fruit and our food. Okay? We didn't just go out and attack them. What we have to do is we have to take it inside us, accept it for what it is and what's happening to the earth and the gases and whatever, and accept what am I going to do as a human being, okay, not go along with that. That's how we have to work. Not working on stopping them and drilling. We'll stop drilling when we don't get money. Yeah.
Do you know anybody who's tried to use the chestahedron in relation to tapping into what Tesla was tapping into, like the 0-point energy and like harvesting that kind of energy? If you've known anybody that's been doing any experiments.
Those tap into, getting zero waste and all kinds of different things. Those are human being things.
Yeah.
Yeah? And that's what we are. We are humans, and we have a heart. Okay, and we need to balance that so that we can balance these two polarities here. And so if there is a polarity over here that's doing something with oil or whatever, okay, or somebody's raising the price of gas and giving a bonus of $4 million for 1 year, I mean, we have to stop that somehow within us.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But all these things that are going on and all these energy devices that they're trying to develop and free energy devices, that's wonderful, yeah? But you see, when somebody develops a free energy source, then somebody's going to take that and sell it to you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it's not free.
Yeah.
It's not going to be free. Because if they do, listen, this electric company is going to buy that machine up and energy free, it's going to energy free, but not to you. So I mean, it's kind of like that. So you have to change what's in you, not what's out there. Everything that's bad out there, if you look at everything bad, what you're not looking at is what's bad in you. Yeah.
I'd be curious to hear how you came across Rudolf Steiner's work and how that stimulated your research into the discovery of this shape.
Did you hear him?
Yes.
Okay. The girl did. I was in Paris, and I was in the Louvre. Somehow I bumped into this girl. This girl said, "You ever heard of Rudolf Steiner?" I said, "No." "Oh, he's got a philosophy you want to hear about?" I said, "No."
How old were you?
I have my own things and stuff. And she said, "Well, what do you do?" I said, "I'm an artist. I'm a sculptor. I make sculptures." "Oh, let me see him." I showed her a picture or whatever. "Oh, you really like Rudolf Steiner?" I said, "No, I don't think so." So then she said, "Well, look, the problem is I liked her." I liked her. So she said, "Well, I'm going to send you a book, and if you read the first chapter, we can talk." Yeah, that's good. That's how I'm going to keep in contact with this woman. This beautiful Swiss woman from Dornach. So, sure enough, she sent me one of the books, one of the 4 major books about the philosophy of freedom came. So I read the first chapter, and I talked to her about this, and she got so upset. She said, "How do you understand that so easily? I've been working on it for years." I said, "I know, I kind of like it, I kind of can relate to it." So after about 2 years, I liked Rudolf Steiner better than I did her. So that was the end of that. But I still am in contact with this woman. She's coming to visit me still, even though I'm married. So that's how I got going with Rudolf Steiner. And she invited me to the first English conference at the Grithianum. I went, and I saw these capitals, and I saw the seals, and that got me started thinking. And then 2 years later, I retired and decided to go to school. So I went to school and took this Goethean science class, which talked about Goethe's methodology and Rudolf Steiner and Platonic forms. I like these Platonic forms. I haven't seen them before. I like these Platonic forms. Why don't I, study them? And I did. I made them all out of clay and everything. And then I said, "Well, I wonder why the 7 isn't there." And that's how it started.
How old were you?
60.
Okay.
I didn't know anything about any of that. Zip. So you see what I mean? You got a head start on me.
So what do you see all this opening for you next?
Oh gosh. Okay, I'm starting into the third seventh year. Okay, so that there's a 7-year cycle, right? There's transitions, and sure enough, there is one for me. And what's happening is that I've found And I haven't worked on it a little bit, only worked on it a little bit. It's enough to know where I'm going. I found out where all the platonic forms come from, across the threshold. And I found out what platonic forms are earth-oriented and which are spiritual-oriented. And the dodecahedron is not a spiritual form, it's an earth form. It doesn't, the dodecahedron doesn't appear in the spiritual world. It only appears on earth. And it's not the cosmos, or it's not the zodiac, and it's not all the stuff that they present throughout history. Actually, what it is it's the human being. 12 human beings. So, I see this, okay? I now know the geometry across the threshold. And now I'm going to work on that geometry, which is scaffolding that you can see. That's my new direction.
Great. And you are what age now? What age now?
Well, how am I now?
Yeah.
I'm 73.
73.
I'm ready to go, too, man.
Yeah. Great.
How hard would it be to take the subjective of the aurora that you were talking about,
Yeah,
the
that's
vortex coming in and
subjective.
making it objective,
And make an object?
making it objective versus subjective?
Well, I really think that, you know, it would be someone not like me, but it would be a scientist, I would say. That would be.
You had no interest in doing
No.
that?
I have to do what I'm good at. And what I'm good at is finding forms that have never been seen before. And I have discovered, okay, I have discovered a form I have made. I've already made it, but I'm going to make more, but I just don't have time yet, that has less than nothing in it. So what that means is that there is a form that has less than vacuum. Now vacuum is, you know, you have pressure and you have vacuum. So in the spiritual world there's the vacuum. Physical world is pressure. So in the vacuum I found what is less than vacuum. Visually, I mean three-dimensionally. And that's what I'm going to work with. But as far as the aurora and stuff, gosh, I wish somebody would try it. I'd like to know if it's real or not. If the idea is even good. But I tell you one thing, I haven't seen anything. I looked at the auroras and I got books on them and I read them all. And I looked at the internet a lot. No one has an explanation for these things. Because to me, everyone says that the aurora is coming in. I don't think so. The aurora is coming out. Coming out of the earth. It's not going in. Plasma, you know, solar flares, all that's going in. But what's coming out is spiritual. That's color. That's not material.
So why do you think that energy is coming into the earth in only one place? Why isn't it, if it's coming from the sun, why isn't it coming flat?
You can't answer that for me? There is wait a minute. There's the objective answer to that question. You can't go on. In this world, we have too much sentimentality. Okay? We can't do everything that just comes off our feelings. We have to bring our inner mind into that too and find out, is there a sense of saying, is the energy coming in here? Well, I see it. You have some kind of research that says that the energy is coming in any other way. And you don't.
So you're not calling it sunlight? It's, I mean...
Well, I'm not saying it cannot, or it isn't, or this is the only way. I'm just saying that this is what I found. Okay.
But sunlight, what about sunlight?
Okay, you have solar energy from sunlight, right? Okay. But you have on the other side is dark. So, these are questions, okay, that need to be answered, okay? And so, one of the things about research that all of you have to realize that when you do research, that you can't just have questions. Now, there's a lot of people I know that are advocating question and find a better question and find a better question and that one, a better question. That's Luciferic. Yeah, it's totally Lucifer. That's way on this extreme over here. You cannot have a question that has any sense unless you have an answer. Because you can't have a better question until you have an answer. Or you just go, yeah, this and then there's this and then there's this and let's see, the better question tomorrow. Okay, better question is this one. Oh, goodness, you're going to be sick. You're going to have congestive heart failure. You need to have an answer. But you can't end up with the answer and say that's it. Oh, this is the only answer. There's no other answers or whatever. Now you need to play way back here and say, well, wait a minute. There might be another answer, another question, whatever. That's how I can tell you.
This is also the pole and the heart.
So,
The question and the answer.
Yeah.
Well, I was saying that what you're describing is the pole of moving between these two things, the question and the answer, the question and the answer.
That's right.
Because otherwise you just go off on one extreme.
That's right.
You have all the answers, you don't need any
I'm over
questions.
here. I have all the answers, damn it. You guys don't believe it, the hell with it. I got all the answers right over here. Forget it. It's on a table. You know, if you don't believe it, that sucks. Or I can go over here and I can say, geez, I don't know what this is. I got to ask another question. Oh, I don't know what that is. Well, let me try another question. You know, I can't figure it out. Oh, there's got to be an answer. Where is it? What is an answer? Okay, so those are two extremes. Now, you have to go between those two polarities. You have to go between them like this to get the right balance. Not only in your research, but as a human being. So, just remember, okay, that you all are spiritual beings. And you're not here to have spiritual experiences. You're here to have earth experiences. Because this is the only place you're going to have an earth experience. When you cross the threshold, there is no earth experience. So you came here to earth to have an earth experience, not a spiritual one. Oh, this is a spiritual one. I'm here. I'm doing my tiptoes. And, okay. And then you get over here, okay, and now you're so grounded, you know, you just like this and this and the will. No. You are spiritual beings having an earth experience here. And that's what you have to do is work on earth things, not on spiritual things. Because behind the earth things are spirit. Materialism is spirit. So, again, it's the balance. You can't be all material, and you can't be all spiritual. Either one.
So this is just where would you experience the re-experience of the Christ in this?
That's right. Yeah, what did he come here for? He came here to experience the earth. Boy, did he get experienced. That's right. That's why it's here. That's why he, you know, they say he entered the earth, right? He, you know, during the crucifixion, and then now he's part of the earth. So, you know, the only difference that I get between, you know, Christ and these kind of things, and Buddha and Muhammad and all these kind of things, Christ is a spiritual being. Other people are developed human beings.
Will we experience the Christ in the etheric that they talk about, physically or spiritually?
No, well, he was here physically. He's not coming back as a physical being, okay? He's now in the etheric. According, you know, I don't know for sure, you know. But, I mean, it makes sense to me. I mean, if it didn't make sense to me, I would say baloney. But it does kind of make sense to me. I mean, just imagine if it's true that he's sent here by a God. Can you imagine what it would be like for a father to put your son through that? I put my son through what Christ went through. Can you imagine what that would be like? Unbelievable. Yeah. How we get it? You know, I can talk about religion. It doesn't mean I'm Christian or I'm Buddhist or anything. What I am is a human being and trying to make sense out of all of these things that go on. The Star of David is Jewish, okay? But why do they have the do they have the right to claim the circle as theirs? Or the pentagram is theirs? Come on, it's everybody's. Yeah.
Well, I'm curious, because you've talked a lot about the heart and the relationship of the chestahedron and the heart. And it's also been said in some esoteric writing that the sun, there's a relationship between the heart and the sun. So has anybody or you yourself kind of like tried to study the sun, like our solar sun in relationship to the chestahedron or anything like that?
Well, yes, I did a little bit. I was kind of curious. And what I did is I put two chestahedrons together in a sphere. And I saw that there were two rings that stuck out. There was a ring here, and then the other one was inside each other, which I have pictures of. They're in the book. There was another ring, like that. There were two rings. And I found out that when you see the sun and the sunspots, there are rings. There are two rings. Well, they start out one, and then it gets smaller and then bigger and so forth. And so that was the closest I came to it, and I like that. I like what I found, but I never pursued it. Uh-oh, yes.
Question I have is that I heard saying that the Earth reversing the north pole.
Well, you know that reversal of poles that they talk about? You know, only thing I can say about it is I really don't know, but I'll tell you one thing. I know that if you look at the top of the Earth, there's a triangle. And it's a deep triangle and it's filled with water. And the triangle's weird. It's not a perfect triangle, but there is a triangle at the top. And at the bottom of the Earth, there's a big, huge cap. And there's no way any water gets in there at all. It's all earth and ice over it. Okay? So I realize there's a heavy-duty cap here, and this is open. So I don't know about that switching the poles. I mean, you know, I don't know. I know they talk about it. You know, no big thing talking about it, but I certainly don't know anything about it.
They fell out.
Oh, it came out of the earth. Okay, I'm about ready to catch a plane.
All right.
So you guys have... Yeah, go home. Go home. I'm glad you came. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the book. So anyway, I hope that you got something out of this. Yeah, anything.
Oh, great.
Very welcome. Very welcome. Probably the last